Hello there, and welcome back to Intelligent Pod. I'm your host, Sophie Lane, and as always, I'm thrilled to have you tuning in for another deep dive into the fascinating ways intelligence, both human and artificial, shapes our everyday lives. Today, we're asking a question that's a little unsettling, a little provocative, and oh so relevant to all of us. Is technology making us forget? Or, as researchers have started calling it, are we suffering from digital amnesia? Before we dig in, let me paint you a quick picture. Imagine you're at the grocery store. You reach for your phone to check your shopping list, only to realize you left it at home. Suddenly, you can't remember more than 2 items you needed, despite the fact that you wrote the list yourself just an hour ago. Or maybe you're trying to recall your best friend's phone number, but you draw a total blank because you haven't needed to dial it in years. Sound familiar? You're not alone. Today on Intelligent Pod, we're going to unpack what digital amnesia is, why it matters, and how it's affecting our brains, our memories, and even our culture. We'll look at the science, the psychology, and real stories from everyday life. And don't worry, I'll share some practical tips to help you strengthen your memory in this digital age, so you don't have to panic the next time you're without your trusty smartphone. So let's get started. First, let's clarify what we mean by digital amnesia. This term was popularized in 2015 after a study commissioned by Kaspersky Lab, a global cybersecurity company. The researchers defined digital amnesia as the experience of forgetting information that you trust a digital device to store and remember for you. Essentially, it's the idea that because our devices are so good at remembering things for us, we don't bother to commit information to memory anymore. Let's look at some numbers to put this in perspective. According to that same Kaspersky study, a whopping 91% of people in the United States say they use the internet as an extension of their brain. And 71% of adults admit they can't remember the phone numbers of their children without looking it up on their phones. That's right. Most of us don't even know our closest loved ones' phone numbers by heart anymore. Now, this isn't just about forgetting phone numbers or shopping lists. Digital amnesia extends to all sorts of information. Directions, birthdays, important appointments, even basic facts we used to memorize in school. Just think about how often you Google something instead of trying to recall it from memory. I know I'm guilty of it, but here's the million-dollar question. Is this actually a problem? Or is it just the way our brains are adapting to a world overflowing with information? Let's explore a few different perspectives. From a psychological standpoint, the phenomenon of digital amnesia isn't entirely new. In fact, cognitive psychologists have a name for this tendency, the Google effect. This term came out of a 2011 study led by Dr. Betsy Sparrow at Columbia University. The researchers found that when people expect to have access to information later, they're less likely to remember it. Instead, they remember how to find it. So, if you know you can just look something up online, your brain says, why bother storing this? I'll just remember which keywords to use. This is called transactive memory, and it's a concept that actually predates the digital era. Traditionally, transactive memory referred to the way groups of people, like families or work teams, divide up the labor of remembering things. For example, in a couple, one partner might always remember birthdays, while the other handles the finances. Now, thanks to technology, our devices have become our transactive memory partners. Some neuroscientists argue that this isn't necessarily a bad thing. After all, our brains have always adapted to new tools. We don't memorize maps anymore because we have GPS. We don't remember as many facts because we can look them up instantly. In many ways, this frees up mental space for more complex tasks, analytical thinking, creativity, problem solving. Why waste precious mental energy memorizing trivial details when you can use that brain power elsewhere? But there's a flip side. Some experts worry that our reliance on technology is weakening our memory muscles. Just like any other part of the body, our brains need exercise to stay strong. If we never challenge ourselves to remember things, those neural pathways can weaken over time. And while it's convenient to outsource memory to our devices, what happens if we lose access to them, even briefly? Our sense of independence, our ability to function without digital support, might suffer. Let's bring in a cultural perspective for a moment. Throughout history, every major technological advance has come with warnings about the dangers of forgetting. When writing is first invented, ancient Greek philosopher Socrates complains that it would make people lazy because they wouldn't have to memorize as many stories. Fast forward to the invention of the printing press, and there were almost identical concerns about people losing their ability to remember oral traditions. In a way, our fears about digital amnesia are just the latest chapter in a very old story. But here's where things get interesting. The sheer volume of information we encounter today is unprecedented. Global data generation is doubling every 2 years. We're bombarded with notifications, emails, social media updates, and news alerts, all fighting for our attention. Our brains evolved to remember what's important, but in a world where everything seems urgent, it's harder than ever to sort the useful from the trivial. Let me share a real-life anecdote. A friend of mine, we'll call her Emily, is a middle school teacher. She recently told me that her students struggle to remember homework assignments, even when they're clearly written on the board and posted online. Why? Because they assume they can always access the information later. When the Wi-Fi goes down unexpectedly, chaos ensues. It's not that they don't care. It's that their brains have adapted to a world where remembering isn't strictly necessary. So, is this adaptation helping or harming us? As with most things, the answer lies somewhere in the middle. Let's take a closer look at the science of memory. Our brains are wired to remember things that are repeated, emotionally charged, or personally relevant. When we rely on digital devices, we often skip those steps. Typing a note into your phone doesn't engage your brain the way writing it down by hand does. And swiping through a calendar reminder doesn't make an event stick in your mind the way discussing it with a friend might. A 2014 study published in the journal Psychological Science found that students who took notes by hand performed better on conceptual questions than those who typed their notes on a laptop. The act of handwriting forces us to process and rephrase information, which strengthens memory. So, while technology offers incredible convenience, it can also encourage passive absorption rather than active engagement. Now, I don't want you to think I'm anti-technology. Far from it. I love my devices, and I use them every day. But I do think it's worth being intentional about how we use technology, especially when it comes to memory. So, what can we do to strike a healthy balance between digital convenience and mental agility? Here are a few actionable tips you can start using today. First, challenge yourself to memorize important information. Start small. Try memorizing a few key phone numbers, your credit card number, or your work address. You'll be surprised how quickly your brain adapts when you give it a little workout. Second, use technology as a backup, not a crutch. If you're planning a big presentation, write your notes by hand before transferring them to your laptop. If you have an important meeting, try to recall the details from memory before checking your calendar. These small exercises can help reinforce neural pathways and boost your confidence in your own memory. Third, practice mindfulness. The more present you are in the moment, the more likely you are to remember what's happening. Next time you're at a party, challenge yourself to remember people's names without immediately reaching for your phone. Or, when you're reading an article online, pause to summarize it in your own words before moving on. Fourth, limit information overload. It's okay to unplug. Set boundaries around how often you check your devices. Give yourself time each day to be screen-free, even if it's just for a few minutes. This mental break can help your brain consolidate memories and reduce cognitive fatigue. And finally, cultivate real-world connections. Discuss ideas with others, share stories, and engage in activities that require you to use your memory, like playing word games, doing puzzles, or even just reminiscing with friends and family. Before we wrap up, let's recap what we've covered today. Digital amnesia is real, and it's affecting all of us in ways big and small. While technology offers amazing benefits, it can also encourage us to outsource our memories, and that comes with trade-offs. But by being mindful, intentional, and proactive, we can harness the best of both worlds: the convenience of digital tools and the strength of our own remarkable minds. As we close this episode, I want you to reflect on your own relationship with memory and technology. Are there ways you could strengthen your memory muscles? Could you challenge yourself to remember a little more and rely on your devices a little less? Remember, our brains are incredible organs, capable of growth, adaptation, and renewal, no matter our age. Thank you so much for joining me today on Intelligent Pod. If you found this episode helpful, I'd love for you to leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. It really helps other curious minds find our show. For show notes, links to the studies I mentioned, and more resources on digital amnesia and memory, head over to intelligentpod.com. And if you have thoughts, stories, or questions about today's topic, I'd love to hear from you. Email me anytime at sophie@intelligentpod.com. Until next time, keep your minds sharp, your hearts open, and your curiosity alive. I'm Sophie Lane, and this has been Intelligent Pod. Take care and happy remembering.